there's 5 people who are going to be presenting today. So they're all hiding in the lavender fields on the other screen. And the first one to take over is going to be Claire. Claire, over to you.
Thank you, Blaise. Bonjour, everybody, and happy Bastille Day. Thank you for being here, and I hope you and your family are safe during this rough time. So yes, my name is Claire from the French Tourist Office in Australia. And like Blaise said, I'm here with my fellow French colleagues, Sophie, Sarah, Marine, and Dana. So you're gonna hear a lot of French accent today. You're gonna feel like in France, especially with this lavender field. And we are very pleased to have been invited by Rail Europe. So a couple of stats to start with. France is the most visited country in the world with 90 million tourists, and 975,000 comes from Australia, last year. And despite COVID, we found out that Paris was the second most searched destination on TripAdvisor in June. So it's quite positive. And according to a study done by the Law Institute in May, 65% of Australians are as likely to travel overseas as they were before COVID, when it's possible to do so. And as you know, Australians cannot go to France at the moment. However, since the 1st of July, the European Union has agreed to welcome Australians again. So now it's a matter of reciprocity, whether it happens or not. Most of you, sounds like most of you have been to France, but here's a quick reminder of the location. Within Europe, it's neighboring 7 countries, and to get there from Australia, you only need your passport. Make sure there's enough validity 3 months before the last day of the stay. And here are some of the cities we're gonna talk about today. France has a very extensive rail network, as you can see on this map, and we will talk about that more later. So here's the summary. We would obviously need more than 30 minutes to talk about France, but we selected some of the main regions easily accessible by train. And I'm gonna ask Dana to come talk about the northern France.
Bonjour, merci Claire. Good morning everyone. My name is Dana, as Claire said, and I'm from the Northern France Tourism Bureau in Sydney. So as Claire said, I'm going to talk to you about Lille, which is the capital of the French Flanders region, right on the border of Belgium. And as you can also see from this map, Lille is very easily accessible from Paris Charles de Gaulle. It's just 50 minutes by train, or an hour and 20 minutes by train Eurostar from London. And then also very easily accessible once you're in Lille to go to Brussels, Paris, London, Lyon, all on TGV, as we say, which is translated to a very fast train. And once you're finished with the train, that's also easily accessible by car, even these cute little cars that you can see here, to all the capitals and cities around Northern Europe. And of course, Lille, the topography of Lille lends itself to cycling and walking as a great way to discover the city. There's a network of over 900 kilometres of tracks, and Lille welcomes bike riders, and there are e-bikes all around the city and region. And here is just an example of some of the fabulous walking tours that you can do around the city of Lille. Now, Lille is being a very historic town, and the centre of the town is known as Vieux Lille, or Old Lille, which is lined with beautiful cobblestone streets and pathways and 17th century townhouses. And it's almost like a mini Paris, but with a very young, vibrant vibe. There are a lot of young people living in the city, and the population is always very, very welcoming. Now, these streets, cobblestone streets, lead to what is known as the Grand Place and the ubiquitous Belfry Tower, which can be climbed. And other fabulous discoveries in the city of Lille are particularly the Palace of Beaux-Arts, the Palais de Beaux-Arts, which has the richest collection of art in France outside of the Louvre. And another wonderful thing to do in Lille is the secondhand book market, which is every afternoon in Lille, every day of the week except Sundays. And every year in September is the world famous Lille Flea Market, which is the first weekend in September where people from all over Europe and the world come to visit the Lille Flea Market. Now, what's fabulous about Lille, particularly for the Australian market, is it's a fabulous departure point to discover the Australian Remembrance Trail. Very close to Lille is Fromelles, one of the sites of the major battles for the Australians in World War I. And from Fromelles, you can visit Runcorn and VC Corner and Naur, where all, as you can see in the image here, where the actual soldiers came to visit as to have a break, and they've left their names in graffiti, and their families have since discovered them there and left poppies. And of course, the flower in the crown, if you wish, or the jewel in the crown of the Australian Remembrance Trail is the Sir John Monash Centre and the Interpretive Centre there in Villers-Bretonneux, and the town of Villers-Bretonneux is a must for the Australians visiting the Australian Remembrance Trail too. Now, being the capital of French Flanders, Lille is known for its beer, and it's the heart of the French beer country in France. And Lille and the region is dotted with some small-scale boutique breweries all around where authentic tasting tours can be done, and you can discover how the brewing culture has marked the territory. And after having done a beer tasting, it's a must to visit one of the authentic restaurants called an Estimate, where you can taste some of the Flemish gastronomy known to the Lille region. Shopping is also a big part of Lille, and of course, as I said, the best way to discover is by foot, and there are authentic boutiques and intriguing shops, enticing cafes, and just like in Paris, to sit at the cafe and enjoy absorbing the French culture and the atmosphere is also one of the best things to do in the town. And there are so many hidden courtyards and cobblestone pebbled laneways. It's an absolute delight. Now, Lille, being the European capital of design, is marked by all its street art, which you can see all around the town. And this year, Lille was actually known as the European capital of design. And finally, as you can see here, I've mentioned the flea market, which brings people from all over Europe every year. And finally, as I was about to say, accommodation in Lille abounds, from the fabulous bed and breakfast or the more funky Mama Shelter, which is now part of the Accor group, or even we have a beautiful Relais and Chateau Hotel Clarence, which is right in the centre of Lille. Thank you so much for your time today. Merci.
Bonjour, I'm Sophie from Ato France. Thank you, Dana, and welcome to the east of France, which is situated on the south of Hauts-de-France. So the region is very easily reachable by train, like Reims at 45 minutes from Paris with a TGV, or Strasbourg at 1 hour and 50 minutes. So let's go for a visit and explore the city of Reims in the Champagne region, which is the capital of the crowning, since 33 kings of France were crowned in Reims Cathedral, which is classified as UNESCO World Heritage and well known for its windows designed by the great master Marc Chagall. The city is also very lively during the day and at night with its terrace, champagne bars, restaurants and hotels. But a visit of France is not complete if you haven't visited one of the prestigious champagne houses like Veuve Clicquot or Moum Champagne. And Reims has over 200 kilometers of cellars that make up a vast underground network below the town. Reims is also an excellent starting point for a visit of a famous Champagne tourist route by train or by car. Visit the lighthouse of Verzenay, which offers stunning views over the Champagne vineyards, or explore Auvilliers, the home village of the monk Dom Pérignon, father of Champagne, who contributed to improve and develop the champagne making method. And of course, a visit to Épernay, the capital of the Champagne, is a must. as the city hosts the famous Avenue de Champagne, listed as the UNESCO World Heritage, which counts most of the champagne houses like Moët & Chandon, Pierre-et-Jouët, Mercier, and many more. Tasting a glass of champagne there and staying at one of the beautiful hotels or a charming bed and breakfast is an unmissable experience. Explore the rest of this big region by discovering Nancy in Lorraine, a stunning town combining Renaissance, Art Nouveau, and Art Deco style, and well known for the Place Stanislas, part of the UNESCO heritage of the city, and do not leave the city before enjoying a delicious Kiss Lorraine, the specialty of the Lorraine region. Explore Metz, a city which combines greenery and urban tourism and is famous for this 800-year-old Saint-Étienne Cathedral and its Centre Pompidou Museum, like the one in Paris, which hosts art exhibition of painting, architecture, photography, and design. The European city of Strasbourg hosts the European Parliament, but also the 100-year-old Notre-Dame Cathedral of Strasbourg, and is famous for the district La Petite France, with its small and picturesque tiny streets. A beautiful city where you can enjoy a beer, a Flammküche, sauerkraut or choucroute, and go for a shopping tour to digest. Colmar, with its traditional houses, canal, flowers, amazing cuisine, and famous wine and charming accommodation, is very typical of Alsace. The city has also its Statue of Liberty as its sculpture. Auguste Bartholdi was born in Colmar. The wine route of Alsace can't be missed with its 500 cellars open to the public, where you can taste wine like Riesling or Gewürztraminer and eat at a Michelin restaurant. And in December, enjoy the magical moment of Christmas at one of the Christmas markets. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. I'm Sarah, and I am going to take you a little further east to Lyon. So Lyon is in the center of France on the eastern border, and it's a very central location in Europe. As you can see, it's very close to Germany, Switzerland, Italy, easily accessible from Australia via Dubai on Emirates, because there is a direct line Lyon-Dubai. And it's also very easily accessible by TGV. From Paris, it's just a 2-hour train ride. So this is how Lyon is set out. It's very human-sized, very walkable, very cyclable. From east to west, it's a 30-minute cycle. And there are also electric bikes available for hire throughout the town, so it's very easy. You can see at the center, the UNESCO area. And it's also crossed by Rhône and Saône rivers, so perfect to discover the city via a nice river cruise trip. And so now I'm going to focus on the UNESCO area, which is the second largest Renaissance district in Europe. It's large, but it's also small, so you can just walk and discover it on foot in one day. There is 2,000 years of history. And one thing you can visit is the Roman theaters, really full of history, was set up on the place where Lyon was founded in 43 BC. You would be able to visit 3 different types of theater, one for tragedies, one for music. There is also a temple, so it's really gorgeous. And in the old town, you can also find the Traboul. That's a very original way to discover Lyon. It's sort of hidden passageways. There is 200 of them. The first ones were built in the 4th century, and they will allow you to go from building to street in like a little maze. You can go by yourself or you can hire a guide. And they were first used to go and get water at the wells. But over the years, they were used in different ways. There were markets down there, and then during the war, they were used as kind of bunkers. It's a very, very interesting, full of history way to discover Lyon. So Lyon is the second cultural city of France. To translate all these histories, there is 24 museums, some about art, some about history, but the one I'm going to talk about is Cité Internationale de la Gastronomie, because it's the first cultural center fully devoted to gastronomy. It was opened last year in October, And over there, you can obviously go and do great tastings. It's great for a family day because they have a lot of rooms for children. They have treasure hunts organized, very fun ways to discover gastronomy. Also, they have obviously tastings, and they have a gastro lab, which is a co-working space to be really an incubator of idea and innovate in Lyonnaise gastronomy and French gastronomy. And that leads me to mention that Lyon is the French capital of gastronomy. There is 4,000 restaurants, 19 holder of Michelin star, and probably the most famous chef from Lyon is Paul Bocuse, who has held 3 stars for 54 years, sorry. And one thing is really interesting about the Lyon gastronomy is that it was founded by women. These women were called mères, like mothers. So if you go to Lyon, you will be able to eat at little bars, little restaurants called Mère Brasier, Mère this, Mère that. So the mothers that have founded this restaurant. It's a very generous, very convivial type of cuisine, a lot around the pork or amazing cheese. It's local produce, and you can enjoy the Lyonnaise gastronomy, among others, in the Bouchon Lyonnais, which is a typical type of brasserie. And it's easy to recognize the real Bouchon Lyonnais because, as you can see at the bottom on the right, there is a label, Les Bouchons Lyonnais, which certifies that it's really traditional quality Lyonnaise cuisine. One event I would like to mention is every year the Festival of Light is just absolutely stunning in Lyon. This year in December, and there is 36 different artistic installations all over the town. It's a fairy tale atmosphere with parties and arts, and all the monuments are just lit beautifully, and it's another different way to discover Lyon. In terms of accommodation, there is really room for everyone. There is 19,000 hotel rooms and 50 hotels that are 4 and 5 stars. The last one that opened was the Intercontinental 5-star. It's 144 rooms, opened last year in June, and there is also conference rooms, so it can be very interesting for mice. And that is all for Lyon. And now we are gonna hop on a TGV for just 1.45 short hours and go to Marseille with Claire.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello again. So welcome to Provence. This background is perfect to talk about that. So I'm gonna focus on Marseille and Nice. So first, Marseille, like Sarah said, so easy to get there. 3 hours by train from Paris. It's the most important transport hub on the Mediterranean coast of France and the first European low-cost airport. So it has excellent connections to cities across France and Europe. It also makes a perfect base for day trips across Provence. 1 hour from Avignon, 1 hour and a half from Saint-Tropez. It's also very cruise friendly. It's the first French cruise port. Last year, almost 2 million passengers crossed that port. Also for river cruising through the famous Rhône river cruise. And so Marseille is a multicultural city. This is where you can really soak up the Mediterranean atmosphere. It's the second biggest city in France. 1.8 million people live there. And it's a city which has been very transformed over the years. Millions of dollars have been invested there. And it happened in 2013 when Marseille was the European capital of culture. So it was completely reinvented, renovated. They created new hotels, new museum, and this is one of them on the picture here, the Museum of European and Mediterranean Civilizations. It has a panoramic terrace on the top. So there's 17 other museums to visit in Marseille. So to make it easy, make sure your clients has a museum pass. In terms of accommodation, on this picture, it's the Intercontinental in Marseille, amazing, outstanding terraces. So you are spoiled for choice in Marseille, very diverse, from unique design boutique hotels to five-star hotel or on a smaller budget too. Marseille is one of the oldest city in France, so you are also spoiled for choice in terms of history. Many historic sites to visit. The Longchamp Palace here on the picture, built in the 19th century. The old Charity Hospital, top right, built in the 17th century. Or the If Castle in the middle, which was built in the 16th century by King François I. It's a UNESCO site. It was made famous by Alexander Dumas. He wrote a novel, The Count of Monte Cristo, which I'm sure you heard of. There's also the old town called Le Panier. It's a must with narrow streets, and not far from it there's a new museum which opened a few weeks ago, the Museum of Soap. You can see here the famous the picture of the famous soap, Savon de Marseille. So in the museum you can make your own and go home with it. It's very iconic. So from Marseille, you can also take a boat or drive 30 minutes east of Marseille to reach the Calanque. It's a rocky limestone coast. It's a very protected national park covering 20 kilometers of coastlines. You can discover there creeks to explore, crystal clear water to enjoy. So it's a perfect spot for year-round outdoor activity. Hiking, diving, climbing, or you can just walk around and go to the beach. And after all those visits and activities, the food, you're gonna be very hungry, very thirsty. So the local cuisine over there is very Mediterranean, obviously. It's a blend of traditions and spices also from overseas. Here you can see the picture of the famous bouillabaisse, which is a seafood soup. And in terms of wine, Marseille is surrounded by vineyards, the rosé, and also the Château Neuf du Pape in the Rhône Valley. There's also a famous drink from Marseille, a yellow drink you can see in the picture called pastis. And now let's go to Nice, the second capital of France on the famous Côte d'Azur. So I love this picture because you can see how it's located between the sea and the mountains. You can see at the back. It's a very human scale city, also very easy to walk around. Everything is close all around the bay and the old quarter. Even the airport in Nice is really close. It's only 15 minutes from the city center. Last year, they finished building a tramway, so which can take you from the airport to the city center very quickly. Take note also that there's a direct access from Sydney with Emirates via Dubai. So it's one of the few cities in France that have a direct long-haul flight. And by train, so Nice is 6 hours from Paris or 2.5 hours from Marseille. In terms of accommodation, it's also spoiled for choice because it's the largest hotel capacity of France after Paris, with over 200 hotels, very diverse, from five stars to smaller properties, and for all type of travelers. A lot of historic buildings were converted in hotels, such as here on the picture, the iconic Negresco Hotel, which has a large collection of French art. So you're staying in a hotel or in a museum. There's a few new brands hotel coming up, but the construction has been delayed, obviously, but some of them are the Hilton, Sheraton or Crowne Plaza, which will be completed near the airport. In terms of museums, so once you're settled in your hotel, you can stroll around the city, go to museums, and a lot of them are dedicated to famous artists, because artists such as Picasso, Matisse, Renoir lived there a while on the Côte d'Azur. So for example, there's the Matisse Museum in the city center. The old town, beautiful picture with the market, the flower market, the Promenade des Anglais, not far from it. So very much the Baroque architecture, very typical from there. In terms of food, so in Nice, the food is a big asset and part of the heritage. It has a food label of quality because they use the same recipes that they used to 200 years ago. The main ingredients are seafood, olive oil, and vegetables, so quite healthy. And also, Nice is also surrounded by vineyards. 20 minutes from the center, easy to go for a wine tasting. So here, very quickly, I'm going to show you that Nice is not only the coastal part, there's also the mid-perched villages, just at the back in the green area. And in the orange area, you have ski resorts, so mountains. So basically, you can wake up in Nice, have breakfast with a sea view, and then get a transfer to the mountain, spend the morning skiing, and then come back and have a cocktail on the beach. So very diverse things to do in Nice and around. Here's a picture of some pictures of activities that you can do during winter or summer. Here's the perched villages. And make sure to also suggest to your clients the French Riviera Pass, so they can have access to as many museums as they can. And also a very important event coming up on the 29th of August, the Tour de France, which will start in Nice this year. So as you may have heard, the dates have been postponed. So make sure to tune in on SBS. And also this afternoon, we will launch a competition around the Tour de France to win a trip to the arrival of the Tour de France next year, 2021. So make sure to check our website, france.fr, and register to our monthly newsletter to receive more info about the competition or up-to-date information about France. So that's it for Nice. So now I'm going to ask Marie to come and talk about Bordeaux. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. The last but not least, welcome to Bordeaux, the city break destination which can be visited all year round, but not only. Bordeaux is located in the southwest of France along the Garonne River in the Gironde area. It's the capital of a big region, the Nouvelle-Aquitaine. Bordeaux is very accessible. It's only less than 1 hour away from Paris by plane and less than 2 hours away by high-speed train. Bordeaux has also become a very attractive city since few years. It's a very elegant and lively city. Bordeaux is the biggest urban site listed by UNESCO, with many monuments historical and one of the most beautiful 18th century architectural ensemble in Europe. Bordeaux has become a real gastronomic destination with the arrival of 3 big chefs, Gordon Ramsay, Pierre Gagnère, here on the pictures, and Philippe Etchebest. The city counts more than 1,600 restaurants, many covered and outdoor market providing fresh local products. Concerning the specialty, of course, you cannot leave Bordeaux without tasting the local specialty, les cannelés. It's a small soft pastry cake flowed with rum and vanilla, covered with a caramelized crust. Bordeaux welcomes between 40 and 50 sea cruises per year, several day cruises offering a large choice of theme cruise like Bordeaux from the water, lunch or dinner cruise, aperitif or picnic cruise, bike and cruise, sunset and night cruise, and so on. The Gironde area offers a lot of bike paths in the city, the countryside, and along the Atlantic Ocean. 15 golf playgrounds and many other open-air activities like tuk-tuk tour, balloon tour, dune de pilat climbing, surfing, horse riding, and so on. But the new emblem of Bordeaux is the Cité du Vin. It's also considered the city in this position as a world wine capital. It's a unique cultural center dedicated to the culture and civilization of wine from all over the world, not only from Bordeaux. Of course, Bordeaux is the gateway to the vineyard because it's centrally situated in the heart of wine region. Bordeaux region is the big wine region in France with more than 6,000 properties. Activities around the wine and vineyard are so numerous. Of course, do not miss the traditional wine tasting. Do your own wine, taste wine at the top of the tree, or have a picnic in the vineyard, or sleep in the chateau. Another big asset of Bordeaux, you can reach the seaside in 1 hour. For example, the Arcachon Bay or the Pilat Dune, the highest sand dune in Europe. You can also reach the Atlantic Ocean in 1 hour, and you can also visit the city of La Rochelle, the Cognac wine region, and the Dordogne region. The hotel and hotel residents of Bordeaux welcome you all year round. From large hotel to family guest house located in the center of the city, in the vineyard or near the airport, with gardens, spa, restaurant, gym, you are spot of choice. Located in the former Bordeaux submarine base, the Bassin des Lumières will present monumental immersive digital exhibition dedicated to the great artists of art, history, and contemporary creation. The wine lover will be delighted to know that the Bordeaux Wine Festival is the biggest wine event in Europe, has been postponed the next year, and will take place in June 2021. The event is normally scheduled every 2 years, but every year, many other events around the wine are taking place, such as the Weekend des Grands Crus, taking place in May, and the Bordeaux tasting taking place in December. Thank you for your attention. To conclude, I will give the floor to Sarah.
Merci Marine. Thank you so much for listening to us. If Blaise allows me to have another 2 minutes for a quick conclusion. So here are all the contacts of the tourism boards. There are contacts as well, and you will receive that just after. I would just like to mention one last thing. We are very excited to welcome, of course, the Rugby World Cup in 2023 in September and October. Most of the cities we've introduced are going to welcome it. So Lille, Lyon, Nice, Marseille, and Bordeaux. And there will be also Saint-Etienne, Toulouse, Nantes, and Paris. So that's 9 stadiums, 10 cities all over France, and we're very excited. Just a couple of activities. The France workshop in 2021, so we've only presented a few destinations, but you will be able to meet them next year in Melbourne on the 1st of September. We will have 20 French suppliers and 40 tour operators. So we would be more than glad to have you with us and have a chat. Here is the list, provisional list of exhibitors. The Rugby World Cup France 2023 Organization Committee will be there as well. And as a further incentive, any agent who comes and visits us will get a Dior perfume. Lastly, there was one region, one destination missing from this presentation, and it was Paris region. The reason is Rail Europe and Atout France would like to invite you to this webinar special for Paris region with Paris region tourism. It will be on the 8th of September, and you will receive an invitation through Rail Europe very soon. We thank you very much for listening to us. We hope to welcome Australians very, very soon back in France.
Merci beaucoup. That was really wonderful. I'm definitely very, very hungry right now. And is it too early for wine? No, never too early for wine. No.
Always 4 p.m. somewhere, they say.
Exactly, especially in Europe right now. All right, let's kick off with our quiz. I'll launch it straight away. So you guys have enough time to answer all the questions. Don't forget that you can win one of the 6 bottles of champagne. There we go. So that should have popped up on your screen right now. And yeah, as Kylie has mentioned, that in New Zealand, it's definitely not too early because it's already afternoon. But again, doesn't really matter, especially in these times. We'll take whatever we can at any time we want. Yeah. At this time, you can also use the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions that me or all the people hiding in the lavender fields can answer. So feel free to ask whatever questions you have. Hopefully you can all start filling out the survey that should be on your screen right now. So I'll give you 5 minutes for that. And of course, any questions, please send them through. You got six people right now here waiting for you to answer them. So we have a lot of knowledge between the 7 of us. How many are there in the back? I wasn't even counting.
We're 4, no 5. Yeah, we're 5 in total.
There we go. So that
brains to answer all your questions.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. So there's 6 of us in total for sure. So between all of us, we can answer some questions. One of the questions that popped up during the webinar that I already answered is if there's going to be any images that you guys can use for social media and so on. So I'm going to be sending in the follow-up email. You're going to get a link to some of the images that we have. If you need more, do reach out. We have our own library, and our colleagues from Untitled France can share even more images if you need anything to use with on your social media, Facebook, and so on.
Yes, we also have a library, so I can share the link with you, Blaise, to send to everybody.
Perfect. Okay,
yes.
So we can just include that in the follow-up email as well. Yeah, Donna was asking about all the contacts. Yeah, so that's going to be sent through as a presentation, and we're also going to link to the website, so you can check all of it there. Also in the quiz, you have an option to answer yes, that we can share the contacts with the team at Untitled France, and if you do that, you'll receive more information from them as well. So you're definitely not going to miss out on any of the information. All right. Just checking if there's any other questions here. Nothing's coming up, and I see that about half of you have finished the quiz. So just you have another 2 minutes, so plenty of time to do so. In terms of since there's no questions coming up, all the destinations that were covered obviously are easily reachable by train. All these tickets can easily be booked as point-to-points through our website, very easy. And of course, if you have a French rail pass or a Eurail pass, all these trains are covered as well. Just keep in mind that on most high-speed railways, so the TGV, you do need a seat reservation. So if you have a rail pass, you do need to pay extra for the seat reservation. But if you buy a point-to-point ticket, the seat reservation is already included. So that's very easy as well. Any update on rail passes for 2021? There's no changes that we know of at this point in terms of rail passes. At this point, we haven't received any sort of product updates. Generally, we get any information about updates for the next year sort of towards the end of the year, so November, December. There's definitely talks about Eurail becoming electronic, but I don't know what the exact timeline for that is, because they've been talking about it for a while. But there is sort of initiative in place to move away from paper tickets and go fully electronic. Hopefully that's going to happen in 2021. I don't know if the current crisis has actually helped it or not helped it, but any updates we'll definitely gonna let you know. One more question I see just popped up. How much does the French Riviera pass cost? Any of you can answer that?
We are not sure. We might have to get back to you unless we find out right now. We'll get back to you in 1 minute about that.
Okay, so they're going to be, Helen, they're going to be researching and get back to you on that.
26
Jenny.
euros. That was very quick.
Oh, that was quick?
26 euros for 1 day. So 26 euros about like $32, $35 at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And a follow-up question to that is, does it include public transport?
Yes, it does include public transport.
And how much was it for a month? It's about 30 days, you know? 2 days.
So for 2 days, it's about $60 and it includes transports.
Okay, perfect. Jenny's asking, and that's a rail question, so I'll try to answer it. Is it true that French rail prices are more expensive the longer until travel date? So best to wait until just a few weeks prior to travel to purchase? Not exactly. So the cheapest ones are usually the book early fares. So if you book earlier, they're usually cheaper. Oftentimes last minute, they get more and more expensive. So usually if you book, 3 months, 4 months ahead, depending on what train it is and what the availability is in terms of the booking horizon, it's better to do it early rather than later. If you're booking last minute, oftentimes getting a French rail pass is cheaper because French rail pass, the prices stay fixed. So if you have like only 2 or 3 segments that are all of a sudden quite expensive because you're booking last minute, sometimes it's better just to get a French rail pass, even if it's just for a 1 or 2 day journeys, because French rail pass does have those shorter validities as well. Next one, do you need to prepay tram from Nice airport to the city? How easy is that to do on the spot? Any of you can answer?
Yes, it's actually, it's really easy. You can just land and just go to there is a lot of cashier and you can just get a ticket and it's a very quick ride to the city. It was built it was finalized not so long ago, I think, and it's allowed to actually it's replaced like hundreds of buses. So it's just fantastic. It runs every 3 minutes, very efficient.
Okay, perfect. I would assume that it's almost like any other airport service in terms of how easy it is to get tickets, like Skybus in Melbourne or the train station in or Skybus in Auckland and the train stations in Sydney, for example. All right, perfect. All right, I will now close up the quiz because it looks like 93% of you have answered, so that's great. So I'll just give it 5 more seconds in case anyone's finishing up. I don't see any more questions at this point either. So if that's it, we're gonna call it a day now. Thank you for joining us in this wonderful journey around all the regions in France. It was really fascinating to have you along for the ride on the train, obviously. Join us for our last webinar of the series on Thursday. We're going to Italy, so hopefully you're going to be joining us. That's going to be a fun one as well. And I wish you all the best. Happy Bastille Day. And of course, a big thank you to Toute France team for guiding us through this journey. So I'll just wave to all the people back in the lavender fields.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. There's everybody. So happy Bastille Day. And I hope to see you all on Thursday when we go to Italy. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Happy Bastille Day.
Happy Bastille Day.